In the last video, we left off with basically just that judgment is about to fall on the church, and there are many within the church that don't even realize they're not ready. There are many within the church that don't even realize that judgment is about to fall, and then there are those that do realize judgment is about to fall and don't realize they're not ready, because that takes us right back to what we see being said in Matthew 25 concerning the wise and the foolish virgins. Both the wise and the foolish were waiting for the bridegroom. So that tells us they were both of the church. They both knew he was coming. They were both waiting for him. Both groups. The foolish think they're ready, but they find out that they're not. And they're told, I know you not. That's why it is so important that we build our relationship. Yes, salvation through the blood of Christ comes first and foremost. But we have to build that relationship with the Lord. I want to touch back just briefly here at Jeremiah 7, 11 and 12, where it says, Is this house which is called by my name become a den of robbers in your eyes? Behold, even I have seen it, saith the Lord. But go ye now unto my place which was in Shiloh, where I set my name at the first, and see what I did. See what I did to it for the wickedness of my people. So we've got to understand that this defiling and lying, these things that take place in the house of God, is something God does not take lightly, and we need to examine ourselves. Okay? The church as a whole is not ready. There are many different categories that the members of the church fall in right now, as far as where the relationship stands with the Lord. That is why we have to have a progression of judgments and a progression of taking those that are ready when at different harvest times, so to speak, because everyone is not ready. Everyone cannot be ready at the same time, because it is about the heart coming to a certain point of surrender that it has to be at to be ready to be taken by the Lord. And as we see with a refining process, refining is all about the heat getting hotter, the trial becoming more difficult, so to speak. That's the spiritual application of the heat getting hotter, is that the trial becomes more difficult. And that is all about the different hardenings of people's hearts to the truth of the Lord, because each person is different. Some require a lesser amount of refining, where others require a bit more, and others maybe something even harsher. That is why we have to have judgments that are of progression to bring hearts to the Lord. That is why there are harvests, because people come to the Lord at different times. Okay? It is about the Lord's mercy. It is about Him having a final call, that all who will come to Him come before the worst of His wrath is poured out on this earth. I hope to explain that better, but that's something that we need to seek the Lord on in understanding, because He will open it up. I'm speaking words that I feel led to speak, but He will open up to you the understanding of these things, okay? Because just someone speaking it doesn't clarify things for us many times. And it is only through the Holy Spirit that we get the true understanding of something. So if this is new to you, things I'm speaking, don't just write it off and run away over here somewhere and say, "Oh, she's a false teacher." Seek God on it. I pray you seek God on it, because I only want you to see his truth, okay? Ask him. Ask him, and ask him to guide you in the word, to show you. Okay, back to what we were talking about. In verse 12 of Jeremiah 7, it says, "But go ye now unto my place, which was in Shiloh, where I set my name at the first, and see what I did to it for the wickedness of my people Israel." Again, I say, this does not just apply to Israel, because this is showing us how God works, how he does things. And he is pointing back to Shiloh. So let's go see what took place at Shiloh. I'm trying to see the best place to pick up here. I think we're going to start right here. 1 Samuel 4:10. Now remember, the Lord is saying, go see what I did to my wicked people at Shiloh. Yes. See what I did for the wickedness of my people at Shiloh. Okay. So, wrong one. 1 Samuel 4:10. And the Philistines fought, and Israel was smitten, and they fled every man into his tent. And there was a very great slaughter, for there fell of Israel 30,000 footmen. Do you see that? Because of the rebellion against God, 30,000 footmen died. And the ark of God was taken, and the two sons of Eli, Hophni and Phinehas, were slain. And there ran a man of Benjamin out of the army, and came to Shiloh the same day with his clothes rent, and with earth upon his head. And when he came, lo, Eli sat upon a chair by the wayside watching, for his heart trembled for the ark of God. And when the man came into the city and told it, all the city cried out. Now Eli was 98 years old, and his eyes were dim, that he could not see. And the man said unto Eli, I am he that came out of the army, and I fled today out of the army. And he said, What is there done, my son? What is there done, my son? And the messenger answered and said, Israel is fled before the Philistines, and there hath been also a great slaughter among the people. And thy two sons also, Hophni and Phinehas, are dead, and the ark of God is taken. And it came to pass, when he made mention of the ark of God, that he fell from off his seat backward by the side of the gate, and his neck brake, and he died. For he was an old man and heavy, and he had judged Israel 40 years. And his daughter-in-law, Phinehas' wife, was with child near to be delivered. And when she heard the tidings that the ark of God was taken, and that her father-in-law and her husband were dead, she bowed herself and travailed, for her pains came upon her. And about the time of her death, the woman that stood by her said unto her, Fear not, for thou hast borne a son. But she answered not, neither did she regard it. And she named the child Ichabod, saying, The glory is departed from Israel, because the ark of God was taken, and because of her father-in-law and her husband. And she said, The glory is departed from Israel, for the ark of God is taken. This was all about the punishment that came because of the wickedness of the people of Israel. And we saw up here in verse 10, there was a great slaughter of 30,000 footmen. And we see that the glory of God departed from Israel. We need to think about what that means. We need to think about the drastic punishment that came and how God worked in those days. The glory of God departing is probably just words to some people, but you see how it was regarded at that time? It disturbed Eli so that he fell in such a manner that it broke his neck. It disturbed his daughter-in-law so that she went into travail and died. And it was all because they knew of the horrific thing that had just taken place. The slaughter, the death, and the glory of God had departed. They knew what that meant, that the glory of God had departed from them. You know, we need to be careful, because if we don't look within, if we don't look within ourselves and set things right with the Lord that need to be set right with Him, we will meet consequences for that. And we can learn from things that the Lord has shown us in the Word what types of consequences come. Many do not understand that when we look in the Old Testament, we get a picture of things to come. And that takes us back to our scripture in Ecclesiastes 1:9 and Isaiah 46. The thing that hath been, it is the thing which shall be, and that which is done is that which shall be done. There's no new thing under the sun. It's all about what has been. God uses that to teach us about what will be. And what will be has a lot to do with the choices that we make. You know, the Lord gave us free will, and we make our own choices. And if we choose to not dig into the deeper things of the Lord, to grow that relationship with Him, we are basically saying, I'm satisfied just to sit where I'm at. How could we ever be satisfied just to sit where we're at in a relationship with the Lord? I find myself, the more that I get into the things of the Lord, the more I hunger for more things of Him. We've got to be very careful how complacent that we become. When I speak about us being complacent, I'm talking about us being just satisfied to be where we're at. Now, yes, the Bible teaches us we are to be content in what state we are in, but that is totally different than being complacent and just being satisfied where we're at because we don't want to put any more effort into it. Okay? Because right here in Jeremiah 7:24, to me, this is a picture of their complacency. It says in verse 23, But this thing command I them, saying, Obey my voice, and I will be your God, and ye shall be my people. But in verse 24 it says, But they hearkened not, nor inclined their ear, but walked in the counsels and in the imagination of their evil heart, and went backward and not forward. So if we're not careful and we don't hearken and obey the voice of God and seeking him so that we may hear his voice, then we end up being like is spoken of here in verse 27, walking in the counsel and in the imagination of an evil heart and going backward and not forward. So be very careful at just sitting in a comfort zone thinking, okay, I'm good. I don't have to dig any deeper. I'm doing all right. We can always, always, always build upon our relationship with God. Always. Okay, and speaking of that complacency, of not feeling a need to dig any deeper into the things of the Lord, it takes us back to the wise and the foolish. Because we clearly see there, they both are watching for the bridegroom. Both think that they're going, but only the wise go. Verse 10, Matthew 25:10. The bridegroom came, and they that were ready went in with him into the marriage, and the door shut. Well, who was ready? It says, and the foolish said unto the wise, Give us of your oil. So we know the foolish weren't ready. They didn't have the oil they needed. And their lamps were gone out. Okay? So they were in that complacent state to where they thought they were ready, but they were not. And that is what the Lord really has me doing all this about. My understanding is, at this point anyway, that there are many in the church that think they're ready and they're not. And I can't drive this home enough. If we look at Isaiah 17, 28, verse 17, it says, Judgment also will I lay to the line, and righteousness to the plummet. Do you know what a plummet is? A plummet line. It is a line that is laid by which all things are made straight. Okay? It is what is used to judge the straightness of something. Okay? So here we see that judgment also will I lay to the line. He's going to lay the judgment to the line, and righteousness to the plummet. And the hail shall sweep away the refuge of lies. That's talking about the judgment. And judgment will sweep away the refuge of lies that have been fed to those in the church, because it has happened. I know many of you don't want to believe that, but it has happened. I'm trying to point out to you through the word how it has been happening all through history. Now is no different than any other time, than what was spoke of in the Old Testament about them in, let's see, what was it? It was Jeremiah 7. Let's see if I can get back there. In Jeremiah 7, where we see the same thing going on right here in Jeremiah 7:11. In this house, which is called by my name, is this house which is called by my name become a den of robbers in your eyes? Behold, even I have seen it, saith the Lord. And we see it again in Matthew 21. I don't have that in front of me at the moment, where Jesus went in and said basically the same thing. It was the same thing going on in the church. So we see it all through history, and we need not be so prideful as to think we've got it all right at this point in time, because we don't. Revelation and the seven churches clearly show us God wants the church to understand there are many within it that are not ready. They think they're ready and they're not. The wise and the foolish tell that story. We're going to get into that, I guess, in the next video or two, what the Lord has shown me there. I'm going to leave this here. I love y'all. Bye-bye.